Whoa, is it an angel? No, it's the listening show. Walter.
Yes, sir.
Guess how many? I guess how many dollars I have right now.
Can I ask if you actually have any dollars or if this is a joke?
It's a joke. But guess how many dollars I actually have?
16.
No.
You lose.
Yeah. You suck. So I know everything. I learned that the other day.
That's ironic.
Yeah.
Did you not know everything up until that moment?
Yeah, I didn't know I knew everything. I put it on Facebook. I said, I told you this, but basically I realized the other night, like last night, I was thinking to myself and I was just like, oh, I already know the answer to that, right? And then I realized I just know everything too. I know all the other answers too. So
the last thing you had to know was that you know everything.
Yeah. So if you guys if you guys need to know some stuff, you know, you can just shoot me an email. At the listening show. Walter, do you have a topic today?
Yeah, actually I do.
I think we do. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to have this as my topic, but it doesn't matter. I wanted to talk about social media, and I thought of it because we were talking downstairs, having a regular old conversation, very similar in the way that friends do. And then I realized we could have been recording for the listening show right now. This is good stuff. We jumped around, but we started to talk about social media. I wish I remember exactly what we were talking about. I can't remember the last thing that we were talking about besides the fact that it was about social media, and that was an hour ago. Do you remember?
Yeah, show my face really quick.
Sure. That'd be a good thumbnail because it's very different than the rest. To be like, whoa, what's this one about?
Don't mess with me. Yeah, I want to talk about social media too.
Do you remember anything? Because if not, I can go on my own tangent.
You start, man. I'm feeling so silly right now.
Okay.
I'm going to be making jokes, so camera on me.
I'll be the opposite. I'll just ruin it.
Yeah.
Hey, your noodle is limp. It's been that way for weeks, and I've been too lazy to say anything. Mine just
noodle?
fell
This
off.
one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, put it up on the track. Just put it up on the track in the middle.
Yeah, I just need to put. I
It's
need
so
an erect
simple.
noodle.
And then make those Velcro bits taut.
I got it.
I know what they are. I can't say it.
Yeah,
But those Velcros. Anyway.
it's fine.
I think the last thing I was talking about is I was saying I want to, well, first thing I said is I don't have social media, which isn't actually true. I have an Instagram. Excluding YouTube, I have an Instagram. That's it. But I don't use social media, Facebook, whatever. I don't. So the only thing I have is YouTube. If there's any news or anything that's going on in the outside world, that's the only way I get it unless I'm in public and the news is on some screen. Like, oh, yeah, there's an earthquake. I wouldn't know. Anyway, I think I was started to say that what did I say? My fantasy is the word I used. But the version of myself in the future that I like is where I am doing things in my neighborhood or my town, martial art, language, acting, school, whatever I want to do here. Mm-hmm. But no social media. I just live in the real world.
Yeah.
With the exception of YouTube, I guess. I don't think there's a way around it. Not to mention, if I'm doing what I want to do, I'll be uploading to YouTube. But anyway, and then I said it to you, and then I don't know if you contributed, but I know whether you said something else or not, you said, I want to talk about that. So any things based on what I said that you want to...
Yeah.
Or what?
Well, so, okay. There's like a serious, interesting scientific conversation about the introduction of social media to human beings that would be really interesting to delve into. Mm-hmm. I almost always have the brain capacity to do it, but I might not tonight. I'm feeling extra dumb. So instead of that, you want to watch me try to chug this whole thing?
I think it's going to hurt.
Yeah. Ready?
Hold on. We need some rules. Okay. The camera's got a shot straight through it to your lips when you look right. You're aiming right at the camera.
I can't do it.
Was that painful?
It's starting to hurt. Like it's still like coming down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going.
It doesn't count, but all right.
I'm going to start crying soon.
You gotta dispel some of that water from your body and it turns into tears. You're not even halfway.
I'm over halfway.
No, you're not. Because the volume at the top is smaller than the rest. You know, a lady drank herself to death with water trying to win a Wii for her kid back in like 2008.
Hey, well, trick's on her. I'm not trying to win a Wii.
You already have one. You're dying for no reason.
Oh, my gosh.
Was it out of the fridge? Or was that out of the
Out of the
faucet?
sink.
So it's not
Sink
that
water.
not that cold, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I can do it.
It's your bet that if we do this for an hour, you're going to have to pee before it's over. I'm guessing you won't. You just don't pee or shower or use water.
I think by the time that I finish this water, I'll be ready to talk about the internet.
I think if you just shut up and let me drink this water.
Let me drink it. This hurts.
Being the good friend I am, I'll just let you.
Oh no, this is making me.
You already lost the chug. Why don't you just finish drinking it?
I just was thinking how fast I can drink it. All right, I already drank that much. It was full.
Why don't you just finish drinking it by the time the episode's over?
Well, I got a good start. Okay, so the internet. No, okay, so like people, human beings, when they interact with each other throughout history, it's like they know like 30 people kind of close. And then, maybe distally, they might know 200 people, maybe less. People are used to towns. And I think that's about the brain and like emotional energy that people can account for. I think humans are designed to have about that many people. So like all of a sudden social media comes around and then just is like, hey, by the way, there's 8 billion of you. Have fun. And then there's no rules or anything. And so it's just like pure pandemonium. And that's probably not good. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm wondering what's missing. What is real community, I think is the word I was going to use. Tribe, whatever you want to.
Yeah.
What is missing from social media? And I think I was going to use the word community. To a degree it does, but certainly not. It can never be as intimate as your physical neighbor. Like, for example, if someone you knew on the internet got robbed, you'd feel bad. But if your neighbor got robbed, I think you'd feel a little bit of responsibility. Like, man, I could have, if I just,
that's
was
close.
My town. You know what I mean? It's more personal. I think real life is more personal than the internet could ever be. And that we're not talking about anything new here.
Mm. Well, for sure. But there's this interesting thing that the internet does where it offers the illusion of proximity. I've talked about this before, but basically, if what you're exposed to is stories of things happening, like because in the real world, if you live in a town and you hear stories of things happening, that's a big deal, because if things are happening, if a house burned down next door and you hear that a house burned down next door, then that could be your house next. That's actually like a real possibility. And, proximity brings that kind of like, if you hear a thing, be aware of it, because that could happen to you. It's right over there. That's how it's worked forever. And now people are like wired that way. So now when things happen and they read it, it's right there. It's the same proximity illusion. It's like, but people don't know that that's actually, not right there. It's like really far away.
Two things. I can't remember one right now. So like I said, we're not talking about anything new. The fact is that social media, those interactions aren't really real like your neighbor would be. So have you ever known someone online and that's where you've met them and then you meet them in person?
Yeah.
That's strange. Have you ever done that but never known what they looked like and then met them in person?
That is not something I've done.
That's an interesting experience. I did that like when I was a kid. I met my friend on Xbox.
Wow.
And I went to go meet him. It was very weird, but also really cool experience. I had no idea what he looked like. I knew generally what he sounded like over an Xbox microphone. It's not the same thing. My point is, you won't have that inversely. You won't have someone in real life that face, voice, and you go online, you talk, and you feel like I got more, or this person suddenly is real. Not like when you're talking online and meet in person, like, whoa, this became way more personal or intimate because he's right in front of me. Again, nothing new. The second thing you said is, I think you said the internet offers the illusion of proximity. Well, to a degree, that's true, but at the same time, it also does create some community. There is like you can exchange ideas. I mean, come on, you're interacting at a certain level, but never to a level that you would in person. So I guess where this is going,
it's literally a digital recreation of a neighborhood. It's what it is. And so you can imagine like your internet and the people your social media, that's your town. That's your local town. And that's what the internet is the substitute for that township that we used to, people used to deal with.
That's what I'm getting at. This is the question of, is social media sufficient? And if it is, what is it sufficient for? Because you said, what did you say? It's a replacement. What I'm wanting to get at, maybe not today, but for myself sometime in my life, is how good or useful or necessary is social media, because to a degree certainly is useful.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to be without it. Talking about the internet, I guess. I don't want to be without the internet. I don't want to be without a way to send a quick message to someone far away. Obviously, super useful, but social media to me has little to no use. I'm not saying it's right or wrong or that you shouldn't use it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think for me it has much to offer. But let me get rid of myself for a moment, because that's not really what I'm interested in, at least with this conversation. What is the real utility of social media? What does it offer that real life doesn't? You can go ahead and just be generous and say anything that you can think about.
Availability. It makes but I'm going to keep using the town correlative because that's what I have to compare it to. Like the literal
town is a better word than tribe. That's the one I keep thinking of. I'm thinking about a long time ago, but that's same idea.
Even like 100 years, 40 years ago, it was like this. There was, not internet really then. But basically the things close to you. And so one of the problems with people in towns before is if you were antisocial, you really struggled to find an in group. Like you had a really hard time with that largely. And people would turn to substance, like they do still, to kind of fill the void of that. And I think in a lot of ways, the internet offers, something else to turn to. It offers little in communities for those extra isolated people.
How about you said it's available. How about it's not easy? Available is good, but I'm thinking about, because, I know this is really related. Jordan Peterson was talking about growing up in a small town where there weren't a lot of people and there wasn't a lot to do. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people drink there because it's something to do. So what's the word for something that you just, imbibe or take it because it's available and there's not much else? That's what social media is. It's available. It's easy. It's
present. It's,
I don't know.
It's just readily available. I think that's the best way to. Convenient.
There's a word in my head. It's not as long as available and longer than the word easy. Yeah. Anyway, not important.
It's like right here. It's present. It's
again easy. It's less work to have communal stuff with people through a computer than going outside.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not trying to make the argument that social media is bad and we should be without it. I'm interested in trying to come up with an argument for the other end of it, is which is how useful is it? How important is it? Why do we need it? Mm-hmm. That's probably a better question. Why do we need it? Like, what's its greatest value to us?
Yeah. Well, I think one issue with the internet in general is that it's not just a substitute for one thing. It's a substitute for almost all human functions that we do regularly. It's like a substitute for a teacher. It's a substitute for a community. It's a substitute for a sexual partner. It's a substitute for...
I didn't even think about that.
It's a substitute for a dominance hierarchy in a lot of ways too, a status hierarchy.
Well, if you're talking about like video games,
sure.
But I'm not...
I'm just talking about like, just like Facebook or Twitter or something. Like it's a status game and people play it. Like it's a substitute for orchestrating, for hammering that out in real life. And because it substitutes so many things I think it would be a good substitute if you were like a human being that was truly lacking in one area of your life and you needed to substitute, you needed some stand-in for that thing until you could figure it out. Or maybe you could never figure it out. So it'd be a good stand-in for that. But because people replace every aspect of their life with something on the internet, it's the substitute for entertainment. That's when it becomes a problem, is because you're not getting anything genuine anymore.
You know what I think might be a good comparison to try to get to what I'm thinking about? Remember the movie with Bruce Willis called Surrogates?
Yeah.
So
I thought about that too.
The premise of that movie is you can remotely, in like an electronic bed, control a robot humanoid avatar. It looks just like you, but it's invulnerable.
It can, yeah.
You can look whatever. You can look at whatever you want to look like, but you just control that with your mind out in the world, and that way you can experience everything without ever having to actually leave your room. And there's obvious benefits to that, but then of course our protagonist just doesn't agree with it. Doesn't feel right. Like, even though everything's great, something's missing. I think that's a good example because it kind of takes the conveniences. That's the word. Not easy, not accessible, convenient. It takes all the conveniences that, I don't know,
I think I
social
said
media.
that, but I didn't say it very loud.
I don't know.
My bad.
Maybe. I don't know if you did. Sorry if I didn't hear it. Social media is convenient, and just because something is convenient doesn't make it bad. But obviously, convenience isn't always right. So that's probably its best strength. Why most people go to it. But what is the main reason that we need social media? Certainly, we need it, right? I mean, if say social media didn't exist, we'd all get along, but not with quite the efficiency as a planet, I guess.
Well,
because let me define social media for a minute, because internet and social media aren't the same. I'm trying to talk about the internet.
Yeah, but that's hard. Social media is a big part of it, but I don't think it'd be doing a disservice to what social media is without making it about internet too.
If I want to know what the greatest need of social media is, I know what the point of the internet is. And it's easy to say why we need the internet. It's hard to say why we need social media. That's what I want to find out.
Well, in some ways, they're pretty highly correlated.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I think I need to do a good job, which I haven't done yet, of trying to distinguish what social media is. So generally, apps where people talk. So Facebook is a website apps people talk. Instagram, whatever. So what wouldn't be a social media? See, I don't want to call YouTube social media, but it really kind of is.
It is.
People talk to each other there.
Yeah.
So there's some parts of the internet that aren't. They're just billboards. But
yeah,
I understand how it's really hard to distinguish social media from. So how about?
You kind of have. I'm sorry tell me if I'm interrupting something important. Do you want to?
No, go ahead.
So, okay. So you actually kind of have to be really specific about how things are different. And unfortunately, you have to differentiate and distinguish everything important. So like, if social media is conversations, which sounds like that's what you're saying, it's essentially people talking. So let's say that's what they are.
I think I got a definition.
Okay. Well,
that's
not really important.
I'll remember it.
So like what people would do if they have conversations in real life is that it's actually two people presently there, and then it's not like this person talks for 10 minutes and then they're done talking. It's like a back and forth thing, and it's like you can't edit it. You can't pull out one tiny part and remove it from context. Like, you actually have to and you can have a bad conversation and not listen, but that's like how humans are kind of designed to interact. But social media is like when you take this actual communication, and in the case of like Twitter, it's like you take that conversation and you remove all the context, and then you just take a one-liner and then you send it. And that's why it's not very good as far as communicating. Now, Facebook, you can maybe do that a little bit longer, but it's like Facebook is like a conversation where people are less incentivized to be detailed and specific.
It's a public square. It's a forum. It's someone on a higher platform yelling or saying something, and then you happen to be in proximity when it's said.
Yeah.
And then you can sometimes work your way up on the platform and respond.
Right. And there's utility for that. There's some.
Oh, it certainly can be useful.
Well, like sometimes you need to make an announcement to town hall. That's why Facebook is useful. If you need to make an announcement to your town about something important that's going to affect the town or you or something. If the town thinks it's interesting, each social media has a utility. It's just a matter of I think the thing with social media isn't that it's inherently evil. I think it's like most things, it's a tool, and that you can use it or you can hurt people with it. And it's not just about hurting people. It's about, you can do a lot of damage with the thing too. You can hurt culture. You can hurt, there's a lot. Anyway, you get my point.
I got two things.
What are they?
Well, now there's one left. I like the surrogate analogy. It's a tool. It's useful. And there'd be reasons why it actually is a very good idea to use it. If you want to go work a dangerous, physically dangerous job, use the surrogate. It's beneficial. But to a point, I think you can use surrogacy or social media to the point that it's of a detriment to yourself. And that's hard to explain.
Dynamite's also a tool. Right. So it's like some tools are designed to be sort of corrosive or explosive or to damage. But if you use it in proper context, dynamite's what you need. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I can't remember the rest of that. The other one was social media is hard to define. And that's one of my, like I said, it's not something I've thought through all the way. But I think my first definition would be a virtual representation of yourself. So Facebook, you have your name and your face, and you in script write out your life and your background. That's a virtual representation of yourself. Now you can argue posting on a forum thread with a picture of Mario with your name, Superboob69, technically is a virtual representation of yourself. But I mean, Facebook as an example can replace yourself more than that persona could. Yeah. But it's still wishy-washy. It's hard to define. Is Snapchat with a play on your name like Zoosker with a cartoon representation of your face, is that sufficient as a representation?
I like yours, but can I correct it? I think I figured it out. So it can be a representation of yourself, but in the same way that people can be storytellers, it can also represent a story a person is telling. So like a character, maybe you're acting out a character, maybe you're telling a story about a character. I'm trying to figure out the literal, correlative. So
I just doubt we're going to get there today. This isn't the issue. It's trying to identify the pieces to then start working out the issue. Like, I'm not far down this.
It's largely
I know how I feel about it, but I don't know how I think about it. You know what I mean? Right. Social media in general.
Yeah, I've thought about it, so I kind of know what I think.
So let's back up then. Talk about how we feel about it. So I kind of already said, I just said I'm more or less without it. And the reason I am is because it's enjoyable to just scroll Instagram and stuff.
Yeah.
But two things, kind of like junk food is what I equate social media to.
I was going to say that.
It's easy to and enjoyable to just eat the cookies. But if I can try to objectively judge myself, I don't like who that person is. I would rather this person, if I would like observing myself in third person and I'm a sim, I would rather this person didn't do that. Maybe something more productive. This is what I was thinking earlier. If it's an easy sacrifice to get rid of something that you don't think is good for you, probably go ahead and do it. Now, as an example, candy. I think that's a good example. So sweets, we don't really care about them. We don't go out for them. They're nice, but like generally, I don't care. I'd rather have meat. Lucky us. So it's easy to do away with that thing that we think isn't good for us because it's not. I forgot the right word is. Inversely, I'm really addicted to sugar and caffeine. I wish I could do without it. I could do without it, but it's much more difficult to do without, or just the word sacrifice. So for me, social media, I'm not particularly attached. I'm not a very, what's the word? Not sociable person. You know me. I'm really introverted. That's the right word. So I never actually had a lot of social media to begin with. I haven't had Facebook in at least 10 years. But when I'm on social media, I'm usually just mindlessly checking. It's like, checking social media for me is analogous to looking in the fridge or looking in the cupboards. You know what's there. There's nothing really good for you there. Probably not. But we just keep checking, and I look at that behavior of myself, and I don't really like it. And it's so easy to not check the cupboard. I'm not starving. Anyway, so that's why, because I don't think it's sufficient for me, and because it's a really easy change for me to make. So I would like to keep going in that direction, but at some point I got to figure out exactly how I feel about social media and why I shouldn't, because that's how I feel about social media. I haven't really thought it through a lot, though. Anyway, how do you feel about social media?
Well, it's too big of a thing to do anything about now. So now it's just about it's just about us finding a way to integrate it in the healthiest, most appropriate way. I like your fast food. I was going to bring up fast food as a correlate,
Junk
like an
food,
analogy
whatever.
too, or yeah,
Fast
some
food's
sort
good
of
too. Yeah.
Well, and I like that analogy because what fast food is it's a convenient replacement of real food.
It's convenient and
Now, to the credit of social media and other, fast food, real food can be dangerous and it's really difficult to come by. Like if let's say you got to go to the wild and you got to hunt down a boar to get, wild meat, it has the potential to be the healthiest thing you can eat.
and the
But you
most
gotta-
enjoyable, most fulfilling.
Sure, most fulfilling. That's another
Yeah.
because like you get to cook it and you're really
You get the
present for.
accomplishment and the pride and
Yep, I like that example because it's almost exactly what's happening in diet
in food.
with- yeah. So it's you can say that basically people have it's easy to say you should just eat healthier and then you'd be happier and healthier in life, but it's super inconvenient. And it's really hard to tell people that when they could just go get McDonald's. It's right there and it's already, and they're gonna have some bodily health detriment because of it, but they're not going to die.
As an example between us, I'm sure we're not the only people who've experienced this, but we've had, how do I put this? We've done something that was hard and not convenient and felt very well rewarded for it. And despite knowing that sensation, we will still choose what's convenient.
Yeah.
Despite knowing the potential rewards. We're all like that in many things. That's frustrating,
Yeah.
but it's true. Anyway,
Well,
continue.
and continuing on with the analogy about making food, like we have gotten, I have made an active effort to start cooking more and, preparing my own food. And what I have found is that even though it is, more rewarding, I still don't enjoy it. It's still way easier to go get someone else's food.
Yeah.
And, if you, and another way that it's a good analogy or an adept analogy is that you can, if you have money, then you can get the real thing easier. And like, that's actually a direct correlative. Like, some people can sort of, buy their way into friendships in a weird way. Not to say, and I believe that like some people say that, that's not real friendships. And, to some degree I get that because there's other things at play, but there's other things at play in every friendship. There's, I don't know. I don't want to just,
I know what you mean, and I hope the audience understands.
yeah,
what I'm saying.
you're going to have to be generous with your interpretation of what I'm trying to convey. But the point, I think the main point is that, it's easy to say, I said that, but
Okay. Sorry, I you can go ahead. I'm just want to know if I can
I
interrupt.
just wanted to stress that point that technically to go out into the world and to venture and to get the real thing, to create the community of people has it's more dangerous. It's like literally more dangerous because, to leave your house is dangerous. It's more dangerous than being in your house. It's, but then, you're putting yourself out there emotionally and physically and you don't know if the people will accept you the same way. Like you don't know if changing your diet back to something healthy is going to actually hurt your, really bother your stomach at first because your body's so used to this other crappy stuff. But if you keep introducing and you keep doing that and you stick to it, you're just gonna have only benefit because of it. And I think that's a great correlation analogy. Go ahead.
So going down that, but first, to go out in the real world and interact socially or physically is to be vulnerable. So not only is it more convenient to do online, it's safer.
And it equips you to be embarrassed when you cook it bad. It's not pleasant all the time. You really can embarrass
A
yourself.
little bit less failure, a little bit more manageable or controllable your interactions, but that doesn't mean they're going to be as fulfilling. So back to the food thing. If there is a optimal diet, let's use the triangle, whatever it's called, the food pyramid. And if social media is analogous to food, if it's like junk food, and if, let's say, real life interactions are the whole foods, then surely if you can become physically unhealthy, then you can become mentally unhealthy. Certainly that's possible. And certainly I think there's got to be an example of too much social media, like literally never leaving your room. You'll find very few people who go, yeah. You know what I mean?
I would argue it happens before that too.
Well, no, I'm using it as an extreme, but I'm saying the point is that there is such a thing as too much.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, and I'm trying to find out why do we need social media, if that food is 100% an analogous way, right, which I'm not sure that it is, that I mean you don't need any of it. Because you don't need any junk food. You just need the whole food and you're fine. Junk food's like a luxury. It's a convenience. And if that's the case, then you don't need social media. And I'm sure you could live a happy life without social media. But in the same way, I would never tell someone, don't ever enjoy a cake. I wouldn't tell someone to never use social media. I think it's similar. I don't know if it's exactly the same.
I also think it's similar in the way that some people can be really healthy off of kind of a crappy diet.
Yeah.
You know, and some people can, you know, I know people who are perfectly, they're involved in social media, but they're just healthy people. They don't have, I think it might be important to distinguish what someone healthy looks like using social media and what someone unhealthy does. Cause
yeah,
it's not so self-evident.
Giving some
and that's not to shit on people who use social media who are unhealthy, but I think it's kind of obvious.
Oh man, I don't know why I have none in my mind, but what are some examples of mentally unhealthy as a result of social media?
Well, image obsessed people who it's all about conveying who they want, their ideal self, and convincing other people that they are that, you know, doing things for the likes and the views. I don't exactly know what's bad about that, but I know that ego it just starts to be a thing that kind of corrodes your.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Insides.
I just wish I could define it more specifically. It's not vanity. It's not self-worth to a degree is affected and can be affected negatively. For example, even in the best case scenario for that person, if you were famous online, it doesn't mean that you're in a better place in life at all. It's this idea. That's a more specific one. Fame, popularity.
Yeah. Echo chambers would be another really big one. That's like a really
good
big
example. Good luck finding an echo chamber in real life. I mean, you can find it, but they're not as convenient and therefore not as damaging as one would be online.
And they are tremendously dangerous online too. Echo chambers in a lot of ways, but also, and here's another kind. Maybe this is an echo chamber too, but hysteria and paranoia, like those are usually things that social media can aggravate if it's not being used well, or if you're, you know.
Yeah. So something I changed because now I'm just down to YouTube. I was like, okay, so how am I going to optimize YouTube? There's a lot of ways that I could. One would be to not watch so much. That'd be a great one. I haven't zeroed in on that. But something I had thought about and I finally acted on is I don't watch something, at least if I can help it, never at all, but certainly never more than one. I never watch something or a series of videos talking about an idea, right, where people might have differing opinions. I don't watch multiples of that, whether it's positive or negative, specifically negative, because it's kind of the echo chamber thing. Mostly it's because I don't want to negatively affect myself. So a good example is I used to watch late night comedy talk shows. It was just entertaining, but also I started to realize over the 2 or 3 years I was watching, I just feel kind of dire about what's going on out there, what I'm being told is going on. And I think it's affecting me. I don't know, but
that's what kind of was talking about hysteria and paranoia.
I'm just going to stop watching it. And I felt better pretty quick. And I was like, wow, that was I feel better. Now, does that mean it's a good thing that I stopped watching the news? Not necessarily. Maybe I should be informed, and this is where my truth and ignorance issue for myself that I haven't decided is going away from that. Most recently, I stopped watching videos that I would normally just kind of binge about an ideal or something. And I'm just like,
how recently?
Couple weeks.
Oh,
so I feel better, and I worry that me feeling better is just me being ignorant, and that being ignorant isn't good, but I don't know that anyway.
Do you have an example?
No, I don't have an example. But right now I'm trying to optimize YouTube more. I forgot what the point of that was. We were talking about hysteria and paranoia. No, it wasn't related to that.
That's the last thing I said.
It is, but anyway. You didn't really answer how you feel. I mean, you don't have to. You didn't answer how you feel about social media or how it.
I feel about social media how I feel about everything, which is legitimately I've gotten to that weird point, and I made a joke earlier that it was like I know everything, and that's obviously a super duper joke. Mm-hmm. I don't. But what's weird is I came to the realization in a conversation I had recently that I legitimately think I could talk to any human being on this earth and find something in common with them. And be very pleased about it, as long as they were willing as well.
And that's a rather optimistic thought, right? Or
yeah,
I don't mean that in a bit condescending way. I mean,
yeah,
that's an encouraging thought.
I was trying to find the case where I would be like, I refuse to talk to that person. Racists or Taliban. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's just like the people that people say are your enemy. I legitimately would talk to them, and I wouldn't do so to hate on them or anything. So that's not. Maybe it's me patting myself on the back, but in the same way that I think about people, I think about ideas. So when people talk about inherently bad ideas, I think I'd have a conversation with that idea. I'd have a dialogue with that idea because an idea. Because
more importantly, it's that person isn't an idea; he's a person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But ideas they're sort of personalities as well, and I think with every person you can extract something. Whether it's good or bad, but you can extract information. You need that for perspective, and I think that's the same with ideas too. So even like bad ideas, you can derive really good things, including good information about how bad it is. So even if it's like social media, I used to think of it as inherent evil, but even now I think I could have a really solid relationship with it as long as. But the shame is when people don't know they can have the dialogue, that they're a slave to it. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that's a shame about social media is these people who are stuck to it. And I'm sure I'm guilty to that to some degree, but
I'm not trying to interrupt.
I just think that, like anything, if you're balanced and you're aware and you're having constant dialogue with yourself and your surroundings and the thing that are, with your spirit self, then you can integrate anything. I don't know. I maybe not anything, but I think anything. Go ahead.
So you said, it was a while ago. You said that you think you could talk to anyone, and that was cool to hear because I have a similar thought or idea. It's more vague, but I think it's the same thing. I was thinking about. I had this thought for a while. If you go out and live in the real world, whatever, I'm being a bit facetious when I say that. If you go out and interact with people on a day-to-day basis, you go to the gas station, grocery store, in traffic, whatever, people are fine. They're nice. Mm-hmm. I got no problem with people or talking to anyone. You know what I mean? I don't have tension or resentment for anyone. And yet the internet or social media can purport, we want to call that?
Promote. Aggravate.
Yeah. It can agitate your relationships with people or groups of people easily. It can give you prejudices to hold against other people that you don't know and so my point is, sorry, I'm taking too long. My point is that for the real world that I happen to live in is pretty great compared to the world that I'm being told is out there. And I think I'm better off without being told that.
Yeah.
So the point is, you think you can talk to anyone because they're all just people.
Yeah.
It's encouraging in the same way for me. I'm encouraged by the fact that, man, you know what? Without social media, I actually like people, mm-hmm. Real people. Anyway,
I think of like I actually, from a figurative or a metaphorical or analytical analogy.
Analytical?
Metaphorical.
Analogous?
I'll say I think of it as a metaphor. Like when I think of the internet, I kind of think as like a person as a person. Imagine just people as a person. And I think of the internet as not quite a megaphone, but like a really echoey box. And so if people say nothing important and, you know, they hear this, it's just kind of noisy in there. It's like you can still have the same conversations. And in fact, you can hear from really far across this echoey box. And so it makes it convenient to have conversations from distance. But it also, because you hear everything from everybody in the box, it's just noisy. And the things that stand out are the things that are like the things that are angry or scary or that have some threat to you or your loved ones.
If you're hearing whispering voices all around you, you're only going to subconsciously or
pay attention to the dangerous
pick up
ones.
on the ones that are sensational. That's the right word. Sensational. Yeah.
I was actually going to use the word when I talked about the internet as stimulant. I was going to use that word because it takes,
it's addictive and
it if you've got an open wound and you take a blood thinner, it's going to make the blood come out more. It's like a thing that aggravates and only at the hot points. I'm going to go back to that echoey box thing, big echoey room. And because it does help to communicate distance, but only if you can quiet out the noises that don't matter. And that's really hard with the internet. Like anything, I think if we're talking about this metaphorical echoey box, big room, like what would be good for people is to get in there and say what you need to who you need to and communicate that way, and then remove yourself so you can give your ears a break from all the noise. That's how I think about it. I don't know if I do a lot of metaphor thinking, so that's another one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, actually, I don't know the differences between a metaphor and an analogy. Because that's an analogy. No, metaphor. It is a metaphor.
I think it's a metaphor.
It is a metaphor.
Analogy is if it's like something, a metaphor is a story about a thing that correlates to another story.
Not important. I just had that thought. But
yeah.
This isn't important. I was thinking if the internet's a big box where voices travel and echo bounce around, there are lots of rooms, and you'll never be in a room where you can't hear a voice or some voices. They're always there. Some places are louder than others,
especially when there's yelling.
Big public space. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
But yeah. So anyway, again, I'm not prodding. I asked, how do you feel about social media? And I mean that like personally in your life. I think you got a good idea of how I feel about it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I'm not sure how I think I know how I feel about it.
I think
I just don't know what I think about it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know, like, it's like if I saw an animal or an animal I've never seen before, how would I react to it? Like, oh, it's cute, or I don't know if it has poison.
Yeah.
I'm more of a, anyway, as I see the internet, it makes me go, I should probably stay away from it. It's neat enough to look at, and I'm curious, but I probably shouldn't. That's how I feel about it. Not that you needed another analogy.
Yeah. Analogies are just the best way to convey stuff.
Big things like freaking social media. How do you define it?
Well, in general, analogies help because definitions are so different for everybody. And so if you tell a story, then it's easier to know you can tell who the characters are, even if you change the names per person, because you know who the hero is. Or
if you give 3 different analogies for the same idea or 3 different stories, like the Bible did that. There were 3 stories about, well, I can't remember what they were, but I was like, why is he telling the story 3 times? I'm like, because you learn a bit more each way it's told.
Joseph interpreting the Pharaoh's dreams, two different
a couple
dreams.
Times. Yeah. I was thinking about, not that it's
7
important.
sheaths of wheat.
The servant, I don't think this is the right story. The servant, he gave each one money, and one of them buried in the ground, the other 2 invested them. I can't remember. Anyway,
yeah,
there is utility in having several analogies to explain something.
Parables,
that's the right word.
Yeah.
We're not telling analogies, we're telling parables because we're smart.
It helps me. It really helps me. I think it helps everybody.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Sorry, I was thinking about metaphors.
We're jumping around from how you feel about social media. Like, how is it in your life personally?
I mean, I just am I don't want to use the word ambiguous because I know what I think about them. And I generally think I've kind of integrated how I think about things with how I feel about them, which is like been the best thing I've ever done as far as working on myself. And like, first think, what do I think about this? And then actually finding a way to correlate that with my feelings. So So I kind of don't really like if it's this animal that you encounter that you don't know what it is. What I'm seeing is all these people are like obsessed with the animal and they're like playing with it, and the animal's biting some of them and it's not biting some of them, but largely, it's at
People
least
seem to like it.
people seem to, well, it's maybe it's got suckers and it's stuck to some people, and some people are petting it, and some people are trying to pry it off of them and they can't. I don't know. It's, like anything, you can study the animal and you can look at it and you can even pet it and play with it. And when it bites you, you just have to know, well, that was my bad because it bit me. And I don't know.
I don't know if I should be putting you on the spot.
Go ahead.
Is social media, as you relate to social media, are you like most people? You have some apps and you use them sometimes, and yeah.
I have TikTok. I have an Instagram. What I'm really glad that I actually have a Facebook, a Twitter, an Instagram, a TikTok, which I think that's like the big four or whatever. I don't have a Pinterest. Like that's like the only one. I
think that's stereotypically a girl thing, but I actually don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not even sure what it is.
Right. And like Facebook is not an entertainment thing anymore. It's more like what are my friends up to? Like that's
normal,
my community.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of out of it, but I'm not super out of it. Like I assume that's normal for most people to have those things. And
Facebook's still kind of a status thing too. I like to see if I'm still funny, and I test that out with Facebook. So I'll like put something up, and if maybe that's a status thing. I think it is. Twitter, fortunately, I don't use Twitter for anything that other people use it for. I only use it to satiate my sports addiction. All I do is I follow.
Useful.
It's really great for me. And all I do is follow like the Chiefs, and I follow Sporting Kansas City, and I follow the Royals. And I follow one person who does political commentary. But only like for jokes. Mm-hmm. The Titania McGrath character. Yeah. There's this character, this guy from Britain made up, and he's like pretending to be like a raging feminist, and he says really funny things that sound like someone from the far left would say, but it's like satire. It's kind of funny. And that's not because I don't like the far left. I just appreciate a good satire.
I just thought of something that you can think through with me. Mm-hmm. I was thinking because do you agree with me that Twitter is mostly bad?
Almost all bad.
Okay.
Twitter sucks.
All right, now we can continue.
But it's really good for sports because it's so concise. You can hear the news about players from the mouths of the players. It's great for that.
So if Twitter is mostly bad and it has some utility, it has some channels, people that are worth having the platform for. Certainly that's true of YouTube if most of YouTube isn't bad, right? If YouTube is mostly... Okay, so now my third point down this line is... Because I was trying to figure out if I should have YouTube, what I should watch, if I should watch whatever. So if you can justify keeping Twitter, something so bad as Twitter around for some morsels of good... It'd be really easy for you, not like you have an issue with this, you could justify keeping YouTube to watch certain things. What I'm wondering is...
I would go so far as to say YouTube is mostly a good thing, but go ahead. I think that's not the case for all social media apps, and it's obviously bad in some ways.
This is why I have it. I justify it as being mostly good. I think my use of it is not good. I think I use it too much,
Well, is that just an issue of quantity or quality?
It kind of is,
thing?
But what I was getting to is like I chose to omit watching certain types of videos, because I think too much of those videos are bad. In the same way that reading too many of certain kinds of tweets might be bad or harmful to you.
Sure.
So, based on that, you're being really selective of Twitter. I would think that would be on the right track for choosing to not watch certain videos, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if that was the end of what I was trying to get to, but that's the connection I was making.
Yeah. I know exactly what I think about the quality of which websites and why. And like Facebook, I think it's largely quality because it lets you get in touch with your town. That's the replacement for that. And I'm okay with that as long as you're not in the town every day. Like you got to be home sometimes. Like that's the equivalent correlation there, analogy there. Twitter is basically only Like it's closing your ears and then listening to one sentence and then closing your ears again and saying, you said this. And then you're like, I didn't even hear everything I said. And so that's really bad. But it's really good if you just were like, I need to just hear one quick thing from this person because they're just spouting out information like crazy. And, you know, that's in that case, for me, it's sports. And that's really good to just know a quick thing. And then you don't need to know context because that's what it was. And like just factual statements. And then YouTube is I think YouTube is the best internet thing ever made, and I think it's because I can't
think of any of the places on the internet I'd rather spend my time.
Yeah, well, and I think it's this way because what it is it's the replacement for lectures and sermons. It can be, and it's the replacement for theater too. It's like the replacement for the interaction that you have with a person where you say you get 10 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour or 5 hours of my time and I don't get to interrupt you at all. You just get to do your thing. So if you find a good lecturer, then it's amazing. If you find a good preacher or pastor, it's like perfect. If you find a great show to be entertained, that's good. But not in the same way, if you just give your time to a really crappy person, you just say, tell me what you think for 10 minutes and I won't interrupt. Then they might just feed you a bunch of garbage. But I think that YouTube is, I think that that's a useful form of communication, is just let someone convey a thing for 10 minutes uninterrupted.
And not just on the, communication community side, it's also the entertainment side. There's no more dense form of entertainment than a video.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more accessible and convenient than short videos that are unrelated.
Yeah.
As our attention spans get shorter, as we're supplied more things.
Yeah. That's not,
and that's not even like just my subjective. I think objectively, YouTube is the best source until what would you call that? A more, I think the word I'm use is inclusive, until a more inclusive video platform comes along. Because ironically, it's not very inclusive.
Yeah.
I think that's the right word.
I would say it's mostly inclusive.
But like
it excludes
certainly,
a few things.
Certainly it could be more inclusive. So I mean, I was saying until a more inclusive, maybe more convenient platform comes along. I'm using YouTube to short videos as I'm using Kleenex to tissues. It's just the name brand for how we get this stuff.
The only
so when I mean YouTube, I don't mean their company, mean what they have, the product, the videos.
I think the only bad thing, well, this is not the only bad thing. This is far from it. But I think the bad thing that social media companies don't realize is that when they do algorithms to show you more things you like, they're creating echo chambers.
I don't think they care.
No, they're not. They're incentivized to because they're rewarded for it. Because echo chambers, they produce a lot of one thing.
Yeah, I don't think they care that there's negative effects.
No, they don't. But it's not about them, what they care about. It's just an observation that algorithms are not great. I don't think they're great at all. I don't think it's great to have things recommended to you like a thing that you've already watched. Now, it's convenient, like echo chambers are. It's convenient to have someone who has the exact same ideas as you. It's inconvenient to have them tested against a new thing.
Speaking of which, how annoying it is to watch a video, you didn't really like it, and then for whatever reason, you keep getting recommendations for similar videos to like, stop, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
I think Jim Gaffigan had a joke like that.
Yeah.
But not important.
I think it would benefit people to get rid of algorithms of almost any kind. Unfortunately, TikTok, all it does is create echo chambers. Now, TikTok's great it's like probably the best thing that ever happened for artists. Sincerely, because YouTube, I think is amazing for artists, but I think TikTok is the best thing because all art needs to get somewhere is to be seen. And TikTok is the place you go to see a thing. It's like it's where you go to expose yourself to new stuff. It's kind of weird
because, I got famous as a motovlogger on YouTube, but now I can think of one person specifically who got famous as a motovlogger on TikTok. I mean, whatever, things are changing.
Yeah.
In another 10 years, there'll be something probably besides TikTok. In fact, I'm kind of surprised YouTube is still around.
Yeah.
But it won't be forever. Something better is going to replace it at some point.
Some really smart person, maybe one of us, but basically
probably.
Well, what you would need to do to be successful is you need to take a look at these these social medias, and you need to see what they're
See what they're
replacement
lacking.
for.
Yeah, see what they're lacking.
Well, see what they're replacing in real life, and then figure out what isn't being replaced in real life, and then you'd be incentivized to create a thing
Yep.
that is built to replace that thing in
Yep.
the most efficient and ethical way. Like if you can do that,
Mm-hmm.
and you can recreate a thing digitally that can replace that thing for people. And, you know, again, it's on individuals to integrate it responsibly. And unfortunately, people don't know that. They're not taught that in school. And that's another thing we could talk about. But there are certainly areas in life where you still don't have the efficient, you know, internet replacement for it. And I'm not saying it needs to be created. I think there's still maybe some things should be held sacred and left in the real world. But, you know, I'm trying to devil's advocate for social media here really quick. Imagine there's a person who has everything in their life kind of orchestrated, you know, in all aspects. You know, they've got their town of community, and it's like physically. Then it's not like Facebook or whatever. They've got everything in real life sorted, but there's this one area of life where they are, I don't know, maybe they have some disability, like they can't physically go places or something. I don't know.
That's what I imagined earlier when you said there's a reason where someone would cannot. Like, I'm guessing he has no limbs.
Like maybe a replacement for, and they kind of already have this in some way, but maybe a replacement for, you know, showcasing of skill. And the replacement right now for that is online video games. But you know, there's not really much for that on the physical athletic ability side. There's not like the competition like you could post a video of you doing a workout and other people can do competing workouts, but I think that one area where, you know, someone who's really smart is going to figure this out in the next 50 years. But if you found some way to set up an official digital way to track physical challenges and then allow people from different sides of the world to essentially perform Olympic events or something in a way that's tracked digitally and efficiently and effective, and there's not all these scheduling problems, and there's no issue about getting an audience to a track field. It's like people can tune in live to watch this event, these people racing or lifting weights, or, you know, I don't know. There's doing a sport activity, but from distance. And I'm not saying distance is necessary. I'm just talking about convenience, and if you wanted to make money, this might be how you do it, kind of thing.
Like a convenient thing that could be changed out if it's the internet, but travel, like teleportation is an extreme example, but travel. I mean, we're probably going to have.
We've gotten a lot better.
We'll probably have, you know, the Segways, for example, like 20 years ago. No, now it's like a Segway in a city, useful. Like even the scooters, electric scooters. Imagine what will be another 20 years or 50 years. We'll probably have some more common, convenient ways of transportation. I can't imagine what, but
it's already really convenient.
Utilities.
Uber?
Yeah. Uber's a great example.
Uber's like that's another really smart idea. It's like, where's the replacement for, I need a ride just really quick, but I don't need a ride back? Uber. They did it such a smart way. Just boom, integrate it with your phone. I don't know. There's just smart people. And I think
good ideas. There's a lot of good ideas with not excellent execution, but that's beside the point. I'm just saying because of my quandaries with Uber, but the idea, good idea. Thankfully, it, for the most part, works.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good ideas that
they just don't have good execution.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but, and honestly, I wish that people would teach kids that, you know, it's like, there's so many important things to teach kids about. Look, you got a lot of responsibility to integrate all these tools effectively, because some nihilist person at some point is going to use the internet to really fuck up some stuff, like really bad. I'm just waiting for it to happen, and they'd be incentivized to if they're not taught how important they are or whatever. And you know, it's just at this point, it's bound to happen if people can find a way to capitalize on a really creative and efficient replacement for things that are good for people's lives, like town hall, or, you know, all those things we talked about, then they're going to find a substitution to replace the really malevolent, evil things too. You know, a bomb.
When a new system is made, there is going to be someone there to abuse it.
Right.
Yeah.
But more than that, even like, you know, we can hope that, you know, individuals will be less and less incentivized to, because, you know, if the right things are taught to people and to, you know, a higher value is held across the board. But I'm not super optimistic at this rate that And that I'm not a pessimist by any means, I don't think. But
no, that's why I chuckled when you said I'm not optimistic. Like, that's profound. Like, what are you not optimistic about?
well, I'm not I guess I am kind of pessimistic about some things, but I unless people and individuals like really teach kids this, that, you've got all these awesome tools and you can use them like this. You don't even have to be perfect. You could be very far from it, but you teach them the benefit of eating a good meal.
Yeah.
As an example. But
yeah, I'm not optimistic either. We're the generation of rights, not responsibilities, which I think are two halves or two parts of a coin. And with the social media, we're not taught about its detrimental effects, or they're not being enforced. Kind of like, dieting or health, whatever.
You want to know something interesting? I heard this somewhere. I don't remember where, but somebody was talking about the impact of pandemics on like the new generation of, as far as their political leanings go. Mm-hmm. And throughout history, every time there was a massive disease that, that was at least, that killed a lot of people, or that, happened to people, in the next 10 years, that next generation of children was always super conservative because it rewired their brains to fear the unknown.
That's interesting.
I read that and I was like, well, that sounds about right. Aside from the fact that everything's kind of leaning left politically right now, like for the large majority, I think that, that this whole sickness that's going around is going to be the cause of, 10 years down the road, a really hard shift to the
I think
political right.
And we're going off topic here, but I think the polarity is normal. We're going to go left, then we're going to go right. The question is, how far will it go before it starts to swing back?
And what kind of and that's the thing about social media, is that it has more power than people realize. And people have given it that ability.
They're just on their rights. Like, download the app for free, use it for free, have fun for free, and no responsibility. No consequences are being thought of. I should say no.
That paranoia thing, that's kind of on the same line. The paranoia thing is really going to mess kids up, and it's not going to be great for politics, in the long term. It's not to say that everything's going to go to crap. We have a decent system with checks and balances right now. It's being manipulated like all systems, but I do hope that people's overreaction of, panic and fear and, paranoia and all this stuff that's being broadcasted straight into kids' phones and stuff I'm pretty worried that it's going to cause some sort of equally or more violent, flip the other way at some point, where people will lash out. I do tend to think people would like to be more reasonable on large, unless you're really super possessed by an animus of some kind. So a cooler heads largely will win the day. I just we give a lot of people a lot of power with this tool of the internet, and it's important that people know it's a tool. And for some people shouldn't handle a hammer.
Yeah, well, they have a right to the hammer, and that's all we care about, really, as a society. So,
well, we can complain about that, but I'm just trying to think of practical, this is important to know. Maybe they do have a right to the hammer, but
I'm sure something to the effect has been done. I'd be really curious to see an empirical study about social media and how it relates to people's mental health or social lives.
Oh, it's been done, man.
Yeah, I would love to just see.
You could predict it.
And exactly, you can guess what happens. It's
and
not really
you'd be right.
It's not really a secret. It's just not really on our minds. But
yeah.
Anyway.
Here's another interesting thing that I've been kind of doing in the last month or two. Tell me what you think about this, but I care way less about stats and statistics than I ever have before. I just said the same thing twice, stats and statistics. But I don't care about that as much. I care more about true ideas on large. I get statistics and why they're important, and they inform the deeper truth, but people get so caught up in stats that you lose the point of things.
I don't know if I'm going off track here. If stats don't line up with some people's beliefs, they ignore the stats.
Right. And that's not what I'm saying either. I'm saying you look at the stats to find the deeper truth. And so if you can just skip the stats altogether and talk deeper truths, then the stats become
like, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Right. And so when people are like, but you see that this many people die for this reason or whatever, and you could be like, well,
you could be like, yeah, well, that wasn't real communism.
Sure. Or like, the deeper truth in that scenario isn't that it's a shame, isn't that this is the people died because of this. The deeper truth might be, no, people die and, it sucks, but maybe the way to stop that is to, do some other stuff. I don't know.
It's hard to follow a vague.
I don't want to be too specific.
Yeah, I get it. That's why I just like before to make it definitive. But yeah, it's hard to follow along when you're being. Yeah, I'm not criticizing. I just
sort of like explaining. It's not that I don't listen to people, but when people start going off on stats to prove their point, and I do get it because I used to be that guy, but I kind of see through that now, and I'm kind of like, yes, you're right, but how is that important? And then they can be like, well, because it'd be better if people didn't die. It's like, yeah, okay, well, that's good. Sure, I'm with you there. But then think about like how many people die this way and this way and this way, and how those are manageable problems. And if there's an unmanageable problem that you can't do anything about anyway, then there's not much point to be worried about it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not making any. I don't believe in these people's statements because I actually do understand everybody's opinion about most things. And I just, I have where I line up and I change my mind a lot now. I told you this and I told someone else this last night. I'm going to say it again because I think it's maybe someone can refine this and they can take the nugget and clean it up in their mind. I think you think it at least works. You didn't disagree with me when I said it, but I was talking about in every sort of category of conversation, where there's a spectrum of ideas, then there's one on this end and one on this polar opposite end, and people make their hard choice on one end or the other or somewhere in between, and they're like, this is where I stand on this. I was thinking about how people act with people, and I thought people don't act that way with people. Like if they're doing a good job, like if people decided right from the get-go that I don't like this person because my first interaction with them sucked, then that's not going to be a way to nurture that relationship. Generally, you have to take an aggregation of information and then you have to adjust it all the time.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about something we talked about earlier today, which doesn't have anything to do with social media. I can explain it more if you want, but
I want to just say the main thing, like the main sentence. And the main thing is that with everything that you can have an opinion on, it's better to have a dialogue with ideas than it is to have one opinion about them because things change all the time. So anyway, I just wanted to say that it's better to have an ongoing dialogue and always change your views because things are always the same.
That's what the listening show is. I was saying earlier, this is kind of like to what you just said, which is I'm very fortunate to have a friend that I not only disagree with some stuff about so that we can have interesting conversations, but that you're someone who understands or thinks the same way I do, which is I'm never going to try to force my opinion on you or tell you what's right or wrong. I can hear what you have to say. You can tell me why you think that way, and then I hope I'll change my mind and vice versa, which is a conversation. And I said a lot of people don't have that ability. So I'm very fortunate to have that in my friend.
Yeah, man.
And that's what the listening show is for.
It's not basically always, exactly what it's for. Almost exactly.
Well, if people would just listen, then
they'd know that. I'm going to finish this water. How far along are we?
Well,
wow, we're over an hour.
Yeah.
Holy cow, that was so fast.
So fast.
He's so fast. How's he move like that?
All right, you got to finish that so we can finish the episode.
I'm not going to be able to finish it.
Yeah, well.
Keep talking. I'm going to go.
Well, now I got nothing to talk about. We're right back to how the episode started, where I'm just talking and you're drinking and doing
talk about
voice when you fish.
Talk about the watching show.
All right, I guess. So, quick summarization: we want to do a let's play, basically called the watching show, and I have moved out of the room that we want to use, so we just have to get equipment and set it up. I'm donating a lot of equipment, and we have one thing coming in, and I don't want to make any promises, but a week from now would be great, but
I'm like crying right now.
Then stop.
I'm so close. It's like a couple gulps.
That's gonna hurt, man. You should have been iron.
I got tears. Drink
This
water.
This episode of Listening Show is so impactful. It made Zach cry.
This episode is brought to you by water. Water. If you ever need a drink.
That sounds like the tagline game. Water. And then, like, remember, what were the taglines you were doing? That's what I call it the tagline game. What'd you say? Water? Oh, I'll just go. Water. If you don't like it, too bad. You're 75%.
Oh, wow.
That, you know, whatever that.
Yeah, I don't know what that game's called. We tried doing that with something. Tagline. It's like
we did the show once before.
Slogan
we
game.
just botched it. We weren't
like,
really good.
yeah, we didn't do very
But
good.
water is the headline, and then you just gotta. That's a general one. We don't have to,
water. It's for the earth, but also for you.
water. It can kill you.
It can kill you. Water. Just enough, but not too much.
Water. You can really die in many different ways from water.
Literally.
Keep going on to it.
Water. Tsunamis are bad, but drinking it's good sometimes.
Water. There are hurricanes.
Water comes from the sky.
Water could come from anywhere. The sky, below you, in the air. So dangerous.
Oh man. Water. Earth. Fire. Air.
I was gonna do water. You doing?
That's good too.
That's not that good.
That's really
water.
hilarious. It's like super hilarious.
Wow, he's made it worse.
Sorry. I just think it's so good.
Did you finish your water?
No.
Hurry up.
It hurts.
Then don't. You make a decision.
No, I'm going to. I'm going to. But we can mess around for a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, I got nothing to mess around with. Ironically, you drank way more water than me, but of course, I'm the one who has to pee.
Yeah,
I have like this.
You've always had a more volatile bladder.
Yeah.
We've been on a few road trips, and every time I usually pee once on a road trip. But
you usually don't pee in a day. You just don't pee.
I pee.
And you don't.
I pee. Don't put that on my name. Don't put that on my name. I pee.
It hurts
I'm
to watch.
struggling, yeah.
So you
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
But are you going to do it before the episode?
Yeah.
Over?
No,
okay.
yeah. Have we told the story about when we drove to South Dakota and you peed in the bottles?
You did.
Okay. It's really hilarious.
But not hilarious enough to repeat.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to do the watching show. I think we're close. I think we're gonna.
We're closer. So
Have we talked about what we're gonna do on the watching show?
Oh yeah, we talked about it in some detail one time. It was much like this, although we were sitting at the bottom of the stairs. We were talking about when the episode was over.
Oh, we said that we're gonna play video games.
Wow.
Yeah, together.
And you're going to, tying it back to social media, you're going to take clips and put them on your TikTok.
The ticking talk. Because it's good for artists, and we are artists.
I was like, here it comes. And we are artists. And we artists. I'm out of water. And now you're out of water. Good job.
Fuck this. I'm out.